Hello everybody, this is Dumpster Cat. Welcome back to another rock video. In this one we're going to be trying to answer the ever so elusive question of, is Liliana of the Veil truly playable in BGX midrange in Pioneer? And so ever since Liliana was first spoiled in Dominaria, I was very high on her. I thought that she would be really good for the archetype, really good for the format in terms of slowing it down, making it a bit more midrange focused, and kind of pushing the black-green archetype at least to the point of where Rakdos was, as green has so many good extra one potentials, such as Tireless Tracker, Ranger Class, some type of card selection in the form of Grimflare, of course, and then just alongside our very efficient removal. I thought that Liliana would be just perfect for the archetype and really push it, just push the envelope in terms of trying to get really close to Rakdos in terms of power level. However, once she was actually printed into the set, into the format, she kind of proved to not be that good. I believe she was definitely playable and not a bad choice to put in your deck, in your BG Rock deck. But we saw Rakdos players playing it and then trimming it down to either 0 or even just 1 copy, and then maybe 0 to 1 copies in the sideboard as well. So it just kind of became not very impactful, and we kind of saw the rise, at least just in the black-green archetype, of more aggressively oriented mid-range decks, leveraging cards like Graveyard Trespasser, Ranger Class, Sheoldred, cards like this that were just blatantly good and had a very high power level, very high floor, that is, but they weren't very mid-range focused, or at least 2-for-1 focused, X-for-1 focused, such as Tireless Tracker we see here. I thought that Liliana of the Veil would work wonderfully with Tireless Tracker, as her resource denial kind of anatomy was most conducive to top deck battles, and I thought that Tireless Tracker would be perfect for that, where you would be top decking, worst case possible, just lands that you could turn into card advantage with Tracker, and just keep on plussing Liliana, kind of keep her as kind of your trophy, as your kind of route to victory in that sense. And I thought these cards would work really well alongside each other, but that just kind of proved to not be the case. And that kind of starts the other conversation of, as a black-green archetype in Pioneer, we really kind of based our foundation and base off of the Rock in Modern, of course, as the Rock, just the black-green colors, had so much prominence in that format. And at its prominence, they were running for Liliana of the Veil, 1 to 2 tracker, cards like Dark Confidant that leverage 2-for-1s very nicely, or just, I guess, X-for-1s as well. And in Pioneer, we're not really seeing that. As the deck is evolving right now in Pioneer, we see more cards like Phyrex and Fleshgorger, which are just inherently powerful. They have a very high power level. And we see these cards alongside other cards such as Sheoldred, or to a lesser extent Graveyard Trespasser, where these are just kind of inherently powerful cards that are definitely not focused, or just not conducive to leveraging 2-for-1s or X-for-1s. I think Sheoldred is the most prominent example of this, as I believe this card to be just extremely kind of narrow-minded in it's not very conducive to complex decision-making. You basically just play this card and hope that your opponent does not have a removal spell for it, and then you're pretty much golden to win the game thereafter, as it's just the power level of the card is just so pushed. And instead of being conducive to interactive gameplay, where you're 1-for-1ing your opponent with your interactive removal, your Thought Seizes, you're trying to get there with your Grimflares, trying to set up the top of your library as most effectively as possible, and leveraging cards like Liliana, of course, which are very controlling, mid-range focused, wants to deny resources from your opponent and to yourself to an extent. Sheoldred is just does not really rely upon those lines, I believe, and is kind of just a very narrow-minded card in my eyes, as it's you just play it, and if your opponent doesn't have a way to remove it, then you're in pretty good shape. And I don't believe that to be a kind of fun format to be present in, at least in my eyes. And it is true that I will say that pretty much the only deck that leverages Sheoldred is Rakdos, one of, or I guess like second to the best deck in the format. And so you can make the case that, okay, like Sheoldred is not played as much. However, I feel like as, you know, Rakdos being the most prominent deck in the format, this card is just very prevalent right now. And it's kind of designed and focused toward more of a aggressive game plan where really just trying to resolve this card and keep it alive for as long as possible is not really interesting to me, and I'd much rather be focusing on my X-for-1 potentials alongside cards like Tireless Tracker and Liliana of the Veil, of course. However, to kind of counter my argument, to add some nuance to this conversation, if we're basing our understanding, at least with the Black-Green Rock archetype, off of the modern Black-Green Rock, that deck had very aggressively costed threats that are just plain beaters. The prime example being Tarmogoyf, and you could kind of make the comparison with Tarmogoyf to Sheoldred, where if your opponent doesn't have a way to answer it, then you're just going to win the game. However, Black Green Rock and Modern had other 2-for-1s, X-for-1s, like I had mentioned, in the form of Dark Confidant, Tireless Tracker. That deck even played Corsive Crewfix at times. And so it's kind of hard to make that comparison, and I think that Sheoldred, also being just a 4-mana threat that is very aggressively costed, is just kind of problematic for the format in the sense that it doesn't really create more of a mid-range focused feel, and I think that is kind of detrimental to the format as a whole. And speaking of the format as a whole, I feel like the format is very, very aggressive and very punishing in the sense that just take the 3 top decks, I guess, in my opinion, Mono Green, Rakdos, and then you could make the argument that Mono White is also in the top 3 as well, probably alongside like Lotus Field or 5-color decks. All those decks are either trying to punish you in the sense that Mono Green is just always going to go over the top of you, Rakdos is always going to punish you with its 2-for-1 potential, or with the example of Mono White, they're just able to go under all of the decks in the format pretty effectively and efficiently. And so we're kind of pinned against the wall in that sense of kind of having to do this hybrid aggro mid-range deck where we're definitely not able to go over Mono Green. It's pretty tough to play against Rakdos as Fable of the Mirror Breaker is just so prominent and effective in their deck, and Mono White is just so aggressive that we kind of need to play more just inherently powerful creatures, at least with these 9 cards we have going here, which one may assume is kind of a detriment to the Liliana of the Veil plan, and makes cards like Tireless Tracker a lot worse alongside her. But as we come to the closure of this video, I was trying to complain not too much, just with my concerns surrounding Liliana and just the general positioning of Black-Green in the format right now, just because it is quite questionable in the format and is quite underpowered in my opinion, as I've not had too much success. And kind of a larger point I wanted to make is, now that it's coming to my mind, is that Liliana has always been decent for me, just genuinely decent, but she has never outright won the game for me. At least in any of my matches, she has not won the game just on her own, and I feel like that probably has a lot to say as well. And so with that being said, let me know your thoughts of her and just the general positioning of the our archetype in the format right now, kind of what you see the future of it to be like, because I would love to hear. And yeah, other than that, thank you so much for watching. Consider subscribing if you enjoy my content, as I will be pushing forward despite the underpowered nature of our archetype. Yeah, with that being said, thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next one.